What's going on, guys? And we are going to continue with Davinci Resolve 14. What we're going to look at tonight is the Fairlight page and the delivery page. So let's start with a Fairlight. Like always, let's go ahead and reset our UI so everyone's UI should be the same. Okay, so let's start with the top left. Like before, this is just your media pool. If you want to pull that up, you can turn that on and off. If you have some VST plugins that you have installed with Davinci Resolve, then it would be in this effects library. Any plugins that you install will be there. If you have the free version of Davinci Resolve 14, by the way, you might not have some of these stuff that I'm showing you. Just be aware of that. Now, over here by the index button is just a history, like previous windows. It just shows you your edit history. So if you want to find something specific and delete that, you can just do that here. Really useful as well. Moving on to the right is your mixer. If you click that, you're going to see your main audio here. Audio 1, if you have multiple ones, you're going to have more than just this. And your main one is your overall audio. To the right of that is your meters. And if you also want to pull up your video, you're going to find that here under the meters tab. Let's turn off mixer for now so it's less confusing. This is your meters, and you're going to have a bunch of meters for your different audio tracks there, and your main one right here. So that's really helpful because it shows you, and I believe you can put, you can put that, you can undock that if you want. So let's say we want to move that there, that's fine. If we turn that off, turn it on, let's move on to the inspector. It's the same way, it's just a clips attribute pretty much. So if you click this audio and go to inspector, it's going to show you the clip attributes. You can have the volume, and you can turn on an equalizer right there and then. Pretty useful stuff. And the last one is metadata, which has your metadatas for your audios like that. If you want to show all the groups, you can, but if you don't, you just want the consolidated one, you can just go to clip details. So that's that. Moving down here, this is actually your timeline. This is where your audio is going to be. You can increase and decrease the size of your waveform so you can see it a little bit better by just dragging and pretty much clicking and dragging this here. You can also use these buttons here if you want to. And you can play it. You can select some range. You can snap it, which I have on all the time, because if you turn that off, it's going to screw up a lot of things. The playhead is just right here, right on top of that. So that's pretty much it with the Fairlight page. We're not going to go over too much of it. This is just an introduction so you can get familiarized with the page. So let's go ahead and move on to deliver page. Now this is the final step. This is this window is what you use to actually export your footage. So in the top left, you're going to have your presets. I have some custom ones that I have, but you also have some ones that came with Davinci Resolve 14, which is YouTube, Vimeo, Final Cut, XML, Pro Tools, audio only. A lot of good stuff there. Over here in the bottom left, by the way, if we turn the clips off, and then we can expand this thing here. There, I want to expand it so you can see the whole thing. Video, you're going to see the format, and make sure this is clicked on so that the video will be exported. You can choose QuickTime, AVI. I use QuickTime all the time, and DNX HR 10-bit. That's what I use, 444. But you might have some other stuff, but this is where you get that at. Just know that the free version of Resolve is only limited to Ultra HD rendering. If you're rendering something else higher than that, you're going to have to get the paid version. The resolution you can change, but usually this resolution is going to come from your timeline resolution, but you can always change that here. Frame rate is your frame rate, and if we untick the advanced settings, you're going to be able to change your pixel aspect ratio, your data levels, auto, video, full. By the way, if you're having gamma issues or gamma shifts, play around with this and take this off auto, choose video, render, change it to full, render to see if that gamma issue is fixed, because 80% of the time it's just between these two. You just have to figure out which one is which. Data burn-in I don't really use because this is like for professionals and whatnot. And enable flat pass is pretty much if you want to render your timeline or your clips with a flat profile, just click that on. For final rendering, you can you can force icing to the highest quality and force the beard to the highest quality, just in case you resize some stuff. Just to be sure, I usually click those to turn those on at final render. You can also change the way you render by using single clip or individual clips, just so that if you are doing like a round trip to Premiere or something like that, you can render your clips individually. Single clip is obviously going to render the whole entire timeline as one video layer. Browse here is just going to ask you where you want to save your footage. And moving on to the audio, if there is no audio in your save file, this is probably the first place you want to look at. Make sure your export audio is checked on. Codec is right here. If you are exporting to H.264 for YouTube, you probably want to use AAC because that's the preferred audio YouTube wants. Change the data rate here, and bit depth is 16. I usually do 128 for YouTube. You can do timeline tracker, main one stereo, or you can do render one track per channel if you're complicated like that. So moving on to file, this is pretty much where you're gonna name your video. You can use a custom name or you can use a timeline name, but I usually just use a custom name. File suffix, file subfolder, if you need that, then you can use that as well. I don't really mess with the stuff here. And render speed at maximum, I usually have that at maximum unless I'm having issues with rendering, and I would maybe put it down to 25 or something like that, just to see if that would work. Sometimes I do run into issues. After that, if you click on add render queue, that's gonna, well, it's telling me the destination. Let's go ahead and try this so that you see it the whole way. So let's just do it in my documents, it's fine. If we add render queue now, it should pop up in the top right. It's gonna tell you what it's gonna try and do, and then once you click render, that's gonna render your entire sequence. So going over here, this is obviously the preview window. Similarly with the edit page, you can increase and decrease, and you can also you can do the entire timeline as a render, but you can also just render a piece of it by dragging these in and out clips just like that, and that automatically changes it to in and out. Entire timeline, click it, and it will bring it back to that. So I hope I did not forget anything here, and it's similar to the edit page. It's just gonna increase and decrease your audio and video height. Hope I didn't forget anything. If you have questions, let me know. And I've been getting a lot of subscribers, and I'm really thinking it's because of this Davinci Resolve 14. So if you are subscribing because of these tutorials, let me know, because I'm trying to figure out what people want to see in my channel.